Hey everyone, my name is Carlos Walsh, and as most of you know, I'm a troubled teen industry survivor and advocate. I was in the troubled teen industry school called Pilgrim's Rest Ministry of Reconciliation for 12 years, and I have since become an advocate. And I've got two guests with me. One, Brett Harper, who was at Agape for a while, and then Ezekiel Umali, my good friend who is at Pilgrim's Rest for a while. And I'm so glad to see your face. It's been a while. And Brett, it's so glad to see you. I'm so happy to be with you today. So, if we can get started, Brett, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, my name is Brett Harper. I run Spare the Rod. It's a nonprofit organization that helps spread awareness about the troubled teen industry and abuse in private prisons for the youth, and in boot camps and things like that. I'm a
Mhm.
survivor of Agape boarding school and West Coast Academy. West Coast Academy was a boys' home I was here in Oregon for a brief period of time, about 6 months, and I was in Agape for about 4 years. And I graduated out of Agape in 2003,
Mhm.
and have been speaking out about it ever since then, and really more aggressively the last 2 or 3 years as
Mhm.
I started to spread the rod.
Okay.
So
Well, great, Brett. It's great. It's great to get to hear from you. Honestly,
it's good to see you guys.
Uh, you're
It's
gonna
good to see
play
you
a.
guys.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
definitely is. I'm glad we came across each other over Reddit. You're
Yeah.
definitely going to play a major role into what we're about to talk about today. Ezekiel, you mind introducing yourself?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm Ezekiel Umali. I go by Zeke. I'm a survivor of Pilgrim's Rest boarding school. I was there for a year and a half. Longest year and a half of my life. Still feels like it was pretty recent. But yeah, I'm a survivor, and I'm glad that I'm here today and doing what we're doing. So yeah.
Yeah,
Excellent.
awesome. Well, now that we kind of introduced ourselves, I guess yeah, the big topic we're going to hit about is abuse. Pretty much, this is what's been going on for however long the troubled teen industry has been going on, and it's kind of gained momentum nowadays, and a lot of survivors are starting to come out. They're starting to gain hope. They're starting to gain a little bit of respect to come out, and
Yeah.
I'm going to go with myself. The director of Pilgrim's Rest Ministry of Reconciliation is Kelly Ray Vanderkoy, and he's former military. And if I'm not mistaken, which I'm sure I'm not, he worked at Agape boarding school, Brett, and you had a run in with him when you were there and your time at Agape. Why don't you tell me a little bit about him?
Yeah, I mean, when I first met Kelly Vanderkoy was the first day that I got into Agape, and he was the dean of students, so he was the person that intook you when you get there. So he did like a strip search, everything, made sure all your stuff was like stuff that you could have. And I remember they were going through my stuff in front of James Clemenson, who recently passed away, thankfully.
Yeah.
People
Yeah.
seem to think that's cruel, but this man has tortured kids for, over 30 years in this school. So his death to me was a good thing that happened to
Yes.
the world.
Yes. I completely
Um,
understand that.
you know what I mean? Some
Yeah.
evil just has to die, and that
Yeah.
that was that. So, but they were going through my stuff. They were like, "You can't have this. You can't have that." And I can't remember what I said. I said something to Vanderkoy. No, I said something to. That's right. I said something to James, to Clemenson, the owner, and it was something smart, right? And Vanderkoy backhanded me across the face, hard enough where it knocked me to the ground, and like I don't know that he knocked me out. I definitely felt like really dizzy getting up, like he had hit me like across the temple, like
Yeah.
across the temple in the front of the face
Yeah.
in a way that really
Yeah.
just like took everything out of me. And so he's really good at like hitting certain spots, like when he wants to
Oh yeah.
drop someone. I got up and he told me, "Don't ever talk to him like that. He's the owner. Don't you know who he is?" That kind of thing. And from then on, I really made it an effort to not cross them in ways where I would get my ass handed to me. I mean,
Mhm.
I definitely had a few more times where I had my hands put on me, but for the most part, I kind of flew under the radar after that moment because I realized that I was in a really dangerous situation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I believe, yeah, he's definitely when I first got there back in 2007, and I was there for 12 years. He definitely has grown aggressive. He definitely, I guess, had grown aggressive. My second day there, I mean, from day one, I already knew that this place was bad. But day two was when I got my first experience. I guess I had done something. I believe was told to read a book, and I ripped the front page of the book on purpose, and I lied about it. And then they took me to see Vanderkoy, and he asked me what my problem was, and I couldn't remember if I responded or I was about to respond, but all I remember is being grabbed, and I was 6 years old. I weighed 40 pounds at most, and
Yeah.
I just remember being grabbed in the air, 6 years old, just dangling like a rag doll. This is what I've told people, is I felt like a rag doll at that moment, and being
And you were
thrown to the ground.
6 years old too
6 years
Yeah.
old.
when you were there. I just find that absolutely crazy. I know that you're telling me the truth. That's not.
Yeah.
I don't mean crazy in that sense. I just mean that the fact that your parents would send you away at that age just absolutely breaks my heart.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a big story behind it. I had a lot of issues, major issues that
No
really
kid,
affected me.
but no
But
kid deserves that.
yeah,
No.
And parents, like that's their responsibility. Those kids, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, uh, there's lots of kids that are a lot to handle, and if you can't handle it, adoption, whatever. I know I'm not trying to dig into your past too much here, but I feel for you, brother, because I really feel like, that at 6, like my parents gave up on me, I feel like around at 12 or 13 when they first
mhm,
sent me to the
Yeah.
boys'
Same.
home. But it seems like your parents gave up on you at 6, which is just even more heartbreaking. But
Yeah.
people like that, they just don't. They don't make good parents, and that's sad. But a lot of these kids, like that I met in Agape, they just didn't have good parents.
yeah,
You know what I
yeah,
mean? They
Yeah.
weren't bad kids. They just didn't have good parents. And so they were the wrong crowd. Maybe because you know what I mean, because nobody else is paying attention to them.
yeah,
You know what I mean? And so like, it, I don't know. I just feel like Vanderkoy. There's something interesting I'll touch on just real quick, and then I'll let somebody else speak here.
mhm,
But like when you said what's your problem, right? My dad used to say that all the time. My adopted dad, who's a
yeah,
parole and probation officer who runs a transport business, and he would say, you know how Vanderkoy would always say like, he said the word dirtbag a lot.
yeah. He did
You
say
want to
that a
be a
lot.
dirtbag, My dad would use that same language because he was a parole and probation officer. Like, what's your problem? You want to be like one of those dirtbags on my caseload?
Mhm,
That's what my dad would say,
yeah,
right? He would say, "What's your problem? Do you want to be like one of those dirtbags on my caseload? Is that where you want to end up?" So when I got to Agape and Vanderkoy talked that same kind of way, it just it all clicked. You know what
yeah,
I mean?
yeah,
To me, I'm
yeah,
like
yeah. Definitely.
they
Yeah.
could have been buddies. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like,
Yeah, but yeah, my second day there, it was not fun being thrown on the floor. And you definitely seen the similarities between first and
smack
second day
thrown
there.
down. Yeah.
Exactly, and it's kind of initiation, meaning this is
Oh
where you
yeah.
live now, buddy.
I
Um,
definitely feel like that's what it was him teaching me that, like through a painful initiation, like don't mess with me kind of a thing.
yeah, and
Yeah.
I remember seeing that through a lot of students on their first and second day there. Ezekiel, why don't you go ahead and tell us about? I remember you, Ezekiel, the first day you were there, because
Yeah.
I can tell you like a majority of the students that went through Pilgrim's Rest, I saw them come and I saw them go. So I remember you, but Ezekiel, why don't you go ahead and tell it?
We were there for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my first day when I got there, right? We were greeted. We go to the house, and we drive up to the house, and Kelly comes out with all smiles, all of that, good greetings, and then I meet his wife, and then he's telling us that we're gonna go camping, we're gonna do all this and go fishing. So I got excited. So we walked down to the dorm or like where everybody stays at, does school and everything. I walk in there, it's dead silence, you know, and I didn't get a good feeling from it because like kids should be doing kids things like playing with each other, flicking each other, messing around, talking. Nobody had a single word on their face, not a single smile. And I was getting those looks like, man, like you just messed up for coming here. Like you don't want to be here. Like that's the feeling I got. So we get up to the dorms and it was just like I didn't want to be there anymore, right? So we're walking around the dorms, he's telling us more stuff and we go back up to the house and they leave. So when we go back down to the dorms and it's just me, there's one student who is very trusted is what he would say, very trusted, and he told me that you got to do three things to get out of here. You gotta do good, school, and then there was something else, but I can't really remember what it was. But he told me those three things, right? And so I thought, wow, this is crazy. Like I'm being forced to do all this and all that, you know, like it doesn't seem right. I thought this place was supposed to be fun and give me therapy and help me with other things, you know.
Yeah.
So we get up to the dorms and everybody's playing games, nobody's talking. And I remember Kelly, he grabbed a student out of the shower and it was like what you said, Carlos. He was being held like a rag doll, and that's what I saw within an hour and a half of being there. So yeah, that's what I saw, and I was scared, and people were trying to like cover it up by laughing so I wouldn't be all like intimidated and stuff. But that's what really happened there. So
Yeah.
Yeah, and that awkward laughing that happens, kind of like it's kind of this weird, toxic, kind of like, ha ha ha, like people are laughing, but like we none of us think it's funny, really, but it's almost like
yeah,
the laughing, like, haha, he got his ass kicked or whatever.
Yeah.
And there is kind of this
yeah,
toxic, uh, masculine air that comes about being around Vanderkoy, where it's almost kind of like it's okay to jeer at people that are, you know, weaker, or maybe that, you know, that maybe get their ass kicked. I don't know.
yeah,
I felt like that. I didn't see any of the stuff that like I've heard about when like Brian was there, where people were like boxing each other. But I definitely saw how he treated us, um, on work crews and other things. And then also they they did this thing. It seemed like there was like a time frame where they were like, I guess, more strict than I remember them being for a little while. They were just really trying to make us miserable, and
Mhm.
so like they made it so that anytime you spoke out, even at least bit out of without permission, it was 1,000 push-ups.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
Extravagant, or not extravagant, but
Unbearable
massive, unbearable
punishments.
punishments were a big thing
yeah,
at Pilgrim's
a
Rest, like 500
ridiculous
jumping
amount of
jacks.
push-ups, where to the point where
Yeah.
you like, by the time you like puke or like pass out, or like you get to the point where like you do them, but then you get another 1,000, and or
Yeah,
like
and they
you
make
get they
you.
stack up, and like, you know what I mean, and then you
And
get to just like hopelessly always doing push-ups.
and you're doing them all
Yeah,
day long,
Yeah,
just all day.
and
Like
they
they won't
make you. They
stop you. You
make sure
can't.
you do them.
Exactly. They make sure you do them
Yeah.
all. They won't let you stop.
yeah.
Um,
Nope.
Same
Another
thing over there
thing,
then.
yeah.
If you
Another
stop,
thing I
you
want to
drop.
hit on is Ezekiel. You weren't there, but when Ezekiel got there, it was a whole lot less. It was less than what it used to be. So it's sort of been contained because CPS came in and Kentucky State Police came in and they did their thing. But the big thing back before, a little bit before the winter of 2012, before my first experience with CPS, um, one of the big things was bear crawling.
Oh, they made
And
us do
Mhm.
that too. Oh.
yeah, but bear crawling for us was, I don't know, maybe they did it for you, Brett, but they took us outside and it didn't matter what conditions of the weather it was. It could be raining, it could be snowing, it could be cold, hot, it didn't matter. They would make us bear crawl And they would have us do it. They would have us do so many laps. Like you have to do 10 laps, or in some horrible cases, you would have to do 100 laps, and it would be just absolutely horrendous. We would come up with our hands bleeding, scraped, bruised. During the winter when it snowed, we'd be at that point of we were so cold, like our body was absolutely just aching from the pain.
I have a
Um,
feeling that you might have had it a little bit tougher than I did, because it seems like the programs physically were have been getting less physically abusive over time, more psychologically abusive possibly, or just as bad. But like with Agape, when I got there, people would tell me these horrible stories from before me about how some of the physical punishments were even worse than when I was there. When I was there, they were pretty bad. But when you're talking about bear crawling, yes, they had to do it through mud, through horse manure, through fucking
Wow.
the horse manure was fucked up. That was because somebody mouthed off, and we ended up having to do it through the horse manure. And he lied
That's
about that.
unbelievable.
He lied about that to James, which I thought was interesting. Like, he actually told James it was mud, not fucking not
uh,
horse
That,
doo doo.
Kelly did,
that's
right?
that's
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
messed up.
So he like so Vandequay enjoyed punishing kids more than even James wanted him to,
Hmm.
and that was kind of the
I
thing. So I'm
think
not
I
surprised that there was
think
some brutalness that you experienced
Yeah.
at Pilgrim's Rest.
Go ahead, Ezekiel.
I always had a feeling that Kelly, I don't know what it is, but I had a feeling he would get maybe some sexual turn on from abusing these kids, you know what I mean? Or like
Yeah.
there's something about it that he liked so much, it like kept him going, and you know, he had no problem with doing it, no regrets, and it was
Is
just an everyday thing. So
I think he's a
that's
sadist.
just what I feel like what was that?
I think he's a sadist. You know what that is? Like somebody that enjoys watching someone suffer in pain.
Yeah, kind of like BDSM in a way.
Kind of, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Um
Like they get off
yeah,
on other
just a
people's
little bit.
pain. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, if you think about this, face down, I don't know if Agape had that, but face down, you would have your hand behind your back, and that's kind of symbolizing, you know, your hands tied behind your back, and then so is your legs too, and you're laying down just flat on your stomach, and you can't do anything. So that's what I feel like. You know, there's some symbolism there, something similar. You know,
That's a form of torture in the military, isn't it?
is
What
it?
is?
I think I'm not sure, but I think like if you tie somebody's hands behind their back and their feet behind their back and you lay them on their stomach, isn't that like I don't
So
know. I'm
I'm
gonna
not
look that
very
up, but
I'm not
that
very familiar with that, but that
but
was one of the big punishments.
I'm pretty sure that that's like yeah. See, the thing with Vanderkoy is some of the stuff that he does, I'm pretty sure is military
Yeah,
or
no,
Yeah,
ex-military.
he's ex-military, he's ex-marine. He worked, from what he told us, he worked for the Pentagon. He worked for intelligence in the Pentagon. But he's definitely military. Everything he does and how he runs the school is military. So,
yeah.
yeah, you can definitely see some of the military in him.
He's very MK Ultra brainwashy, scary. On top of being so physically abusive, I don't know if he had you guys watch like the old war reels from like the World War II era and stuff.
Oh, all the time. Oh my
Okay,
goodness.
Uh,
He had us
D-Day
watch.
is
He had us watch military movies upon
that's like
military
all we
movies.
were allowed to watch was like the why we
yeah,
fight shit and like and then like every once in a while you
the
put
only
on like
action.
Iraq War every once in a while, like total brainwash, like just
Yeah,
go to the military, go to the military. And for the longest
That's
time,
all you're faced with.
I tried to figure out why that was, right? And I was
and
like trying to figure out why is he so obsessed with these kids going into the military? What does he really care after they're over 18? And
and
then I
I
realized that it's because they'll hold on to what he says longer if they get regiment beat into them once they leave.
and that is
And
so
Yeah,
amazing how you brought that up because that's all he pounded into us was he pretty much and he would say things to us like, "Oh, the military isn't just the only option," but he made it sound like the military was the easiest option, like the best option in the world.
there's a better
Um,
chance that you'll do better in life, but it won't
exactly.
really have anything to do with him or the training you got there. It's just that you were in the military, and so now you have maybe your education paid for, maybe you have some training, but that's not because of him.
And all
But
that is
yeah,
great. All that is
it's all
great. The
great, but
benefits and stuff are great, but we never,
What?
my parents, I
Yeah,
still keep in well, I kept in contact. I still keep in contact with my parents, and
yeah,
they always convinced me to dream. Like, hey, we'll be behind you 100% in whatever you do, and that's the
yeah,
one thing about my parents that I love. But Vanderkoy, I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna put this out there,
yeah,
but I actually want to be an actor, and that isn't just what I want to be. It's what I want to do. It's who I want to be. That's actually my ultimate dream in the whole
yeah,
world. I don't tell people that often because people look at it and laugh. And if I told Kelly that if I was in school, he would just absolutely laugh at me. He would laugh his
he would
he
laugh
would laugh
and
his
say
face off.
that's demonic. He would say
Exactly. He
that's
would add so
demonic
many
and all
things to
this.
it, and he just made it seem like military was the only option, and I never really had the opportunity to dream what I really wanted to do. I never really had no road path. Um,
yeah. I know. I
that
feel
and
the
that in
same way.
Bible college.
I feel the
Um,
same way, and a lot of kids were like that way. Like I music, I wanted me to be a musician, right? I had a guitar, but I can only play hymns in
yeah,
front of a staff member. I mean,
Oh, yeah,
then I can't practice. I can't practice music. I can't dream of being a musician because it's. So yeah, you're right. It is.
that's 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 not even like because they teach you how to play guitar, but if there's like a certain way that you strum the guitar, you'll never be able to play guitar again. And that's like, what if you could have been a really good guitarist? You could have been in a
Yeah.
band or could have been going somewhere with that, maybe even a music college, but they take that away from you. They don't give you other opportunities, because like there's a lot of kids there that could have been athletes.
Yeah.
Um, but
Yes.
it's just they don't give you that. And then on top of that, they don't teach you about what it's really like in the world because you know what? When we grow up, you know, it's so much stress. There's so much you got to worry about, like taxes, bills, your car insurance, everything. They will never teach you about that. So I think that's why they talk about the military because it's kind of like the easy way out.
I
They're
think
just
so
trying to
too.
make you take. Yeah,
Because
yeah, you
you're
know what
kind
I
of
mean. Yeah.
because you're kind of insulated in there too,
Yeah.
but also on top of that, more possibly more importantly is that um, once you get out of there, it was like for example, I got out of there right. I when I was in the seventh and eighth grade, I played AAU basketball, so I played like
Oh yeah.
higher
Yeah.
level basketball, and like I
Yeah, I know
walked
about that.
onto a college team when I got out. I walked onto a community college team for basketball, but my back broke like right the first like couple months of the season, and so it was from the boarding school, and so that's a
It was from
perfect
the boarding
example of
school.
what you're talking about, like there's people that could be great athletes. Like it's hard to walk onto a college basketball team. I was
Oh
stoked.
yeah.
You know what I mean? And I'd had no 4 years of high school ball to play, just street ball at Agape,
mhm.
and I still
Yeah.
did it, and I was good. But because my
Yeah.
back, I've had two back surgeries since, and I'm 36. You shouldn't have to have your back worked on like that. And there's other people like me that have had knee problems, shoulder problems, back problems, neck problems,
All from Agape
all from Agape or
Yeah.
places
or
like I'm
Pilgrim's
sure
Rest.
Pilgrim's
Yeah.
Rest, where they could have been great athletes, but
Oh yeah. Oh
And
yeah, for
if
they
sure.
we
weren't.
if we could get to the injury part, it kind of pains me to say, but one of the most, I would have to say, most traumatizing moments in Pilgrim's Rest was kids would run away and they would always get caught and always be brought back. But one of the runaways that I will never forget for the rest of my life is uh, a kid. I won't mention his name, but he jumped out of a second story building, and it was about 15, 16 feet um, from the ground, and he hit hard, broke both of his legs. They didn't take him to the hospital until about the second or the third day. And I remember a staff member who actually was a former student at Agape and a former student at Pilgrim's Rest. His name was Wayne Matthews. Was so horrible to him. absolutely just terrible to him. Uh,
Yep.
Calling him names, calling him idiot, calling
Bullied
him
him.
get up, just
Bullied him.
bullied him
Faggot. All of that.
all the
Wow.
whole time.
Yeah.
His legs were broken, and they finally took him to the hospital, and they came back and said, "Oh yeah, his legs are broken." And it's like we couldn't tell. He was crawling on the ground. I remember just him watching him
Yeah.
crawl from the bathroom to his desk, and I just
And
remember seeing it. Go ahead, Ezekiel.
we also, not to forget, uh, he jumped out of a window because he actually followed somebody else, because there was one kid who actually jumped out of a window.
Right. I
And
forgot to mention
so
that.
like seeing that, honestly, that kids are willing to jump out of windows, out of like high windows, is very crazy to think about, because it's that bad there that you're willing to sacrifice your legs and crawl on the ground to get away. You know what I mean?
Right, or possibly
It's
die,
just,
or not stick the
yeah,
landing, and
you
yeah,
could
no,
have
I
landed
mean,
wrong.
there's at Agape, people ran away, and a lot of times people would come back. They would eventually get caught and brought back, and then they were treated really horribly too. Um, we had like magnetic locks on the doors and like door guys in front of the doors. Did you guys have like anybody like guarding your doors or like?
All the time, all the exits were covered,
Oh yeah,
and we did
yeah,
have magnetic doors.
yeah.
Okay.
So it none of us could get out, because we would. I think the only time the door will open is if you like hold it for 30 seconds, and then the alarm goes off the whole time, so somebody would know. So the window was
Yeah.
like the only way, the only getaway. So
And
yeah,
Yep.
I
after
think.
people
I mean, you're
tried
landing
jumping
on
out the
rocks
window,
too.
yeah, there was hard rocks, there was gravel underneath, and finally, after a while, they
Yeah.
finally barred the windows, like, and not exactly metal bars, but they took some pieces of wood and like drilled nails into
Fans.
them to stop people from squeezing their bodies through the window.
They use
So
fans too. They like drilled fans into the wall. So yeah,
Huh.
yeah,
yeah,
um, I guess we can hit on another subject. Is I kind of want to be very careful about this because what I'm about to say next is kind of a very touchy subject, especially when you're dealing with schools. But schools like this, but they are a Christian-run boarding school, and every student who goes there, their parents are told that they are going to be taught Jesus, they're going to be taught um, a Christianity. But I think the one big thing that really hurt a lot of kids, and I mean a lot of kids, is pretty much in order for you to go home, you have to be spiritual. And I have no problem
yep,
with them teaching Christianity at all. I have no problem with them
yeah.
teaching the Bible. That is their right as Americans. But when that
That
becomes the means to a child's
go home.
go home, then
Well, and it's not true, right?
it's not.
Because we know that
You don't.
you don't graduate from the program.
Mhm.
That some people get brought home, but it's we know that that's all a farce. That really you're there as long as they want to make money off of you being there.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, they force it down your throat, and that's the thing. That's not how any religion should be taught.
yep.
It's good to teach religion. I agree that it's like good to learn about every religion there is, but you never force it down their throat, because then that'll turn them away from the religion in the next coming year or two. So I
It's
mean,
spiritual abuse. It's spiritual abuse, and it will turn people off from wanting to go to church or seek out any kind of religious thing. Or yeah,
And a
yeah.
lot of
And what
my
is the main point of religion? It's all about morals. Most religions are. It's about values and morals, and it's supposed to keep you better as a person. And so I do encourage religion, and I would say a lot of people would. So like, why just mess that up for somebody? Because maybe they could have really loved that religion, or maybe they could have, yeah, you know what I mean?
yeah. It kind of deprives
It's
them of something good in their life that could have helped them possibly.
Yeah, it could definitely help them.
You know.
So yeah,
But yeah, that's definitely I feel that too. Like there's been times where I've even had a hard time just having conversations with people about spiritual things, not even religious things, just spiritual things, because of what I've been through.
Yeah. All right. Another subject,
Yeah, I
another
understand that.
topic we're going to hit on is CPS. Ezekiel, if you want to go first, you can go ahead and talk about. I do remember you being there for one of the CPS involvements. If you want to go ahead and talk
Okay.
about that.
Okay, so there was a former student that was there, and I believe the student had told their parents, so they wanted to, like, I'm pretty sure it was a lawsuit. They wanted to file a lawsuit against the school, so they contacted CPS, and then CPS came, and of course Kelly was all like trying to be nice, and I talked to the social workers, and you know what? I regret it to this day because I lied and said that this is a really good place because I was scared because I just had a feeling Kelly would know. You know what
You're
I mean?
scared,
Like I was
yeah.
scared to do the right thing. Yeah.
You're
So
scared.
I
You
was like,
gotta
yeah, I
forgive
love this
yourself for
place.
that. You gotta forgive yourself for that,
Yeah.
because that's like you didn't. You're just a kid, you know. Yeah.
Yeah,
Forget.
that's
Yeah.
true. I mean, yeah. It's just that I feel like you know it could have been a difference because
I feel
there
like
was
they
so
wouldn't have
many things
believed
that I
you.
saw there.
I feel like even if you had said
Really?
something, they wouldn't have believed you. Not saying that
You,
people shouldn't speak up, because they totally should, but I wouldn't beat yourself up over it. You were in a vulnerable position. You know, you're in a place
true.
there. You're a kid, and they would have labeled you as a troubled kid that just wanted to get out of there. And so you not saying anything and looking after yourself is perfectly reasonable.
Um,
Yeah. I mean, yeah. What was that, Carlos?
no, go ahead. You're going to say something.
So yeah, so basically, child services there. They were coming for like 2 days, I think, and it was weird because I never even liked child services anyway because I've dealt with them a lot and I knew they didn't really do anything. But
Yeah, a lot of
what
times they
was it?
don't.
Yeah, they don't.
Yeah, it's sad.
What was it? Yeah, it was about that kid who got slammed into a wall. I'm pretty sure he had a broken nose, and after that, child services, they didn't really do anything. After that, when they left, Kelly, it was like, if you heard anybody talk about it, you'd be in huge trouble. It was a pretty big deal. And then it died down after that. But yeah, I think that was the only child services thing that's ever happened when I was there, other than when that one kid jumped out of the window. So yeah, that's pretty much the child
So
service
did they
experience. Not really
show up
much.
both times they showed up and investigated, or
Yeah,
did they just...
yeah, it was actually it was the same people too, like the same exact social workers. They
It's
they
interesting.
just it's just so fake. Like they were just so fake. They didn't care, and that's why we're doing this right now because we want people to actually see what's going on and listen to us. So
Do you
yeah,
remember was it like a guy and a girl, or a guy and a guy,
yeah, it
or
was a guy. It was a guy and a girl.
guy and a girl? Okay. I'm just
Yeah.
fishing for information because I gotta tell you, from my personal experience dealing with the Agape stuff, corruption runs all the way up the chain. And so you could have had, if it was the same people coming out both times, that seems suspicious to me. Maybe, like maybe it's that maybe Vanderkoy's already paid these people off, or these people already know, and so
Oh, that's
like,
smart. That's
and
smart. I didn't
so
even think of
yeah,
that.
yep.
Yeah.
I mean, he
Because
is
when
he
I
is a
called,
genius.
when I called and checked on things about Pilgrim's Rest, they didn't have any information about this place supposedly. But if
And
this has been out there
if
twice,
if I may interject, that is completely false. In fact,
exactly.
common. I'm all the way here in Texas, and Kentucky's a good so many thousand miles away. But if and just for the record, if anybody wants some information on this place, you can go to the Kentucky State Police website and request um, information on you can request a pretty much it's a 118 PDF page, a police
Yeah.
report on Kelly Vanderkoy, and that was my first experience with CPS, and it's 118
Is
pages. So there is no way that
Let's try to
CPS
get a
would not have
copy of
anything on
that,
record.
or if you can get a copy, I'd love to see that.
I do
Just
have a copy of it on a
I
hard drive, But
Because I think that that would be great to look at just detail wise granularly. But no, I believe you because I had a similar experience, and but basically when I called, like I said, they covered that up. They didn't tell me about that incident. They didn't tell me about any incident. In fact, they told me that they didn't know of any incidents, which I found funny after talking to you. So I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't pay someone off, if there wasn't that Matt Bevan connection that you were telling me, if that had something to do with it.
yeah, that's also a very
I'm not really
big
sure.
topic. So the former administration, the current governor of Kentucky is Andy Beshear, and I believe he's Democratic. I could be wrong, but I'm sure he's Democratic. Uh, but the governor before him, the former governor, what's it called?
Matt Bevan.
Matt Bevin. Matt Bevin had some connection with Vanderkoy, and I remember Vanderkoy talking with someone about Matt Bevin, saying that they were trying to get some legislation passed to where the state couldn't touch Vanderkoy and schools like his. And Vanderkoy, in fact, had us students go up and clean our rooms, and I mean spotless to the T, make sure everything was smelling right, everything was tidied up, the school was tidied up, the property, we had picked up sticks and everything, did all this work so the governor could come in and see the place. But the governor didn't show. And I do remember that, and I have a lot of students behind me who remember that day.
That's interesting. So the governor no showed him, huh?
Yep, but we did all that work for the governor to appear. So there was definitely something all the way going up to the top with hiding Pilgrim's Rest and schools like it. So the fact, the coincidence that, oh, I guess Ezekiel left.
Yeah, looks like we
um
lost him. But yeah, no, we had a similar incident where we had the governor of Missouri come and talk to us after we had done. I had completed an ASVAB, and the governor of Missouri came and talked to a couple of us about officer training school. I was thinking about because the governor can select someone, and there was like this talk about the governor selecting one of these Agape boys as a way to prove that that they can be redeemed and blah blah blah.
yeah.
And I just thought it was ridiculous, but hey, I played along with it. I had gotten a good score on my ASVAB for my electrical engineering, and so but so I met the governor, and we cleaned everything up, like
Yeah.
what you're saying, and we knew ahead of time. And they're coming when there was like, I think one inspection, too, when I was there. Did they ever come out and inspect it when you were there?
Are you talking about
Just
like health
the
inspections?
CPS, besides CPS coming out for the incidents that you said, those two incidents, did they ever do like an inspection for health and well-being, or like safety or
I believe they
cleanliness or
did.
anything?
I do remember they did health inspections where they had a health inspector come and check our kitchen because I believe our kitchen was rated a commercial kitchen. I know they
Oh,
had a lot of incidents with the fire department because proper fire regulation wasn't implemented. So they had to, oh, there's Ezekiel. They had to get some help on that through supporting churches who had ties with fire departments and stuff. So
weird.
I do remember that.
Fire department. So they just like was
I think the
kitchen
fire code wasn't up to date or something like that.
their kitchen wasn't up to fire code or something like
Something like
that.
that. The school wasn't up to fire code.
So do you know that the Agape, when it was in Othello, Washington, they didn't have running water, they didn't have electricity, they had asbestos and they were using the kids to uh, redo everything.
Hmm.
And so it doesn't surprise me that Vander Koy would have no problem having a bunch of students in a place and not have the place up to fire code. Having a
Yeah.
place up to fire code is actually really serious because it has less to do with less
Yeah.
to do with the kitchen and just more to do with like the place burning down in general. I'm sure. But yeah.
I want to point out, I want to take an event, and Ezekiel, you probably remember. Let's take a staff member. His name is Steve Thren. Um, I'm sure you know what incident I'm talking
Yeah.
about. if you want to go ahead and explain that, I believe that was pretty. A lot of guys saw that and it traumatized them. A lot of guys speak to me about that. But
Are
Steve
you talking?
Bren was a principal
Uh,
at, or he was a teacher at Pilgrim's Rest, and he did something on his last day of school, pretty much his last day of
yeah,
teaching.
I remember.
If you want to go ahead, and Ezekiel,
Yeah,
you're still in contact with that student that it happened to, so go ahead and explain that.
yeah. Me and that student, we're very great friends, and he mentions that every time we talk. Like it could be something about so random, and he'll still mention it. Basically, so Steve Gunn. I remember two students. I think I'm pretty sure they were fighting over something, and Steve just snapped. Like he was mad, so he gets up out of his desk, and he like kind of runs over to that student's desk, and he slams his head into the desk like a lot, like so much, and his like nose was like bleeding. There was blood everywhere, all over the desk,
Oh shit.
and it was a loud slam. Like it was like
Yeah,
almost like a gunshot, not a gunshot, but like it was pretty close. It was really loud, and everybody went quiet. Everybody was like, they were scared. I was scared. Everybody was scared because I'm me personally. I've never seen him snap like that before. I have seen him with a lot of other incidents, but like that, slamming a kid's head into the desk that hard, I think that could actually be traumatizing, especially to that kid who it happened to.
Hmm.
So that that's what happened with that situation.
And that staff
So yeah,
member, of course, didn't get reprimanded for that at all.
he quit that
nope,
as soon
not
as
at
that
all.
incident happens. Like after he got done, I remember he slammed his head against the wall and then took his body and slammed him up against the I'm sorry, he slammed his head in the desk. He was bloody, and
Yeah.
then he slammed his body against the wall.
Oh
And
wow.
so pretty much right after that, he quit. He said, I quit. And he started getting rid of his stuff. He started packing up all his stuff. And I
Of
was like, what
course,
in the
because
world
he
is going on?
didn't want to go to jail for child abuse.
Yeah. So he quit
Yeah,
that
but he
day.
wouldn't have though.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah. It would have been covered up.
it would have been covered
It
up,
would
I
have been
bet,
covered up.
but like with like in Missouri, okay, for example, Brian Clemenson, which is of course James Clemenson, the owner of Agape's son, who is now running Agape, right? Brian is pretty notoriously like violent. He punched a kid and then disappeared for 5 years because the statute of
Oh
limitations is
wow.
like 5 years in Missouri or whatever.
Yeah.
So he just like magically wasn't allowed back for a certain amount of time. You see what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
and that happened before, like he came back. When he came back, everybody was like, "You're back," and I was like, "What? What do you mean?" And they're like, "Oh yeah, he punched a kid like a long time ago."
Yeah.
And so like I didn't really think about it until I got out, and then I looked it up, and the statute of limitations just seemed to line up with how long he was gone, and I realized that some of these programs might literally just send staff back and forth to each other, like oh, I punched a kid in Missouri, so now I'm going to go work in Kentucky,
Yeah. And that's an interesting thing.
right?
A lot of these places are connected. Vanderkoy worked at Agape, and then he went out to start his own school, but he still had ties to Agape. And me and Brett were talking on the phone one day, and we found that we had another staff member in common, actually two staff members in common, one of them being Jim Blake.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Jim Blake, Ezekiel, I believe you were there for Jim Blake?
No, I was not there for
He was
Blake.
not there for Jim Blake, but Jim Blake was
I was
actually the
there. He's
lesser of
visited.
all the evils. Um, Jim Blake was kind of a good person. He was really good. He allowed more privileges. He allowed more chances. He was more graceful, and he had our respect in some regards. But there were a lot of things he did that if the parents saw what what he was doing, they would have said no, absolutely not. They would have taken their child out of that school, and excuse me, they would have taken their child out of that school and probably pursued legal action.
I always felt like Jim. I worked in the kitchen with Jim, um, and Jim had this joke where he would fire me uh, all the time, and then he would rehire me,
Yeah.
and he would joke that he loved my work ethic, but he didn't like my attitude. and he would kind of like make kind of an example out of me by firing me, and then he'd rehire me. And he liked to do that. He did like to give people more chances than other people. He was nicer in some ways. Like, we went on an ensemble, and I sang on an ensemble for a while. Like, he let us like talk to girls once, which was like super not
Oh, that's
okay.
so crazy.
And like like it was just for a second, and he was right there with us, and it was like a potluck thing. We weren't alone with them, but we were standing across from these girls, and we were allowed to shake their hand and say hi, and that was just for us was
Oh
amazing.
wow.
Giving, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
that's a
so
privilege.
we were allowed to have coffee sometimes when we weren't allowed to have coffee in the boarding school.
Nope.
So we were allowed to have it when we were singing a couple of different times, but we weren't allowed to tell anybody that we had it because Jim wasn't allowed to let us have it. So I mean, Jim definitely did have those nice, but he also uh, had this way of messing with your mind a little bit,
Mm.
and I can see it looking back that he kind of got. I feel like he got kind of off on it. You know what I mean? Or like, I also feel like he could have. He has witnessed enough abuse there where he should have stood up and said something, or and especially having been at Pilgrim's Rest and Agape. Um, but yeah, Jim overall was nicer. One of the nicer staff members, but yeah, I at the same time I feel like he's still just his hands are still dirty, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, nobody's clean. Nobody.
Yeah, you can't watch what
No,
goes on there and just turn a blind eye and
Yeah.
yeah.
yeah,
And
everybody.
we're gonna wrap this up real quick. And we're gonna name one incident. Well, I guess I can say that for the next time for my guest. But we're gonna wrap this up, and ultimately, what do we want to see done? Obviously, we want to see change, but how are we going to see change? How are we going to see how are we going to start this movement that's grown a lot of fire, a little bit of fire. It's grown a spark, and it's got a little flame to it. How are we going to keep this
Well,
alive, and how are we going to move forward? And
what?
how should we uh, how should we
Well,
expose these people and finally like have a happy ending?
well, wood feeds fire, and so basically, our wood would just be the media. Because once this goes all over or starts to grow even more on media, it's over. Because media can destroy people's lives. I've seen it so many times. Just in this past month, um, it's amazing. It's bad, but like in another way, it's good. Like cancel culture, all that. So we gotta really be hopping on that like every day. So that's just one way though. I mean, I'm sure there's plenty of ways. Like Carlos, you mentioned maybe having multiple people start lawsuits, so it'll be like even more noticed. Um, Other ways though, I'm sure we could go about this many ways. So yeah.
I think the media is going to be a big part of what you guys are going to need. Yeah, so hopefully we'll be able to get you mentioned in a few papers here. Well, maybe reach out to some, constantly email all the local papers
Mm-hmm.
in Kentucky, and in your local town where you're from, because we need to get the word out in Kentucky because that's where people are going to vote on things that are going to change. You see what I'm saying?
You're right.
That
You're right.
so I mean that is one thing that kind of makes them a little bit shielded, is that we're all from different places and there are what I mean, like, so we have to kind of engage with the public there and try and raise awareness around that area about what's going on with the kids, because a lot of the
Yep.
locals, they might not even know what's going on, you know what I mean,
Yeah.
like, I mean, yeah, CPS has maybe been out there, but they might not know that because they probably, they definitely didn't make a paper or anything. And so, but sometimes you'd be surprised. Like, we got some good local support when we did reach out to locals in Missouri. They
Yeah.
didn't like the boys being, like, especially the sexual stuff that was going on. They got really upset about that.
Yeah.
And so, like, just keep that in mind. Media is always going to be your best friend of holding people accountable, right? Getting hold of the lawmakers in that, that area, and also just doing stuff like this, getting people together to talk about their stories, is probably the best that you can do right now. Just trying to raise awareness and build momentum, so that eventually, hopefully, you can get some legislation passed that will shut these people down.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. Well, it was great getting to talk to you guys, and I am so happy to finally see your face, Brett. Zeke, it's always great
It's
to
good
talk to
talking to
you.
you guys. Take care
Yeah.
of
Yeah,
yourselves. Yeah.
yeah.
And on the next video,
And
on our next video, we're definitely going to be discussing a lot more students that have finally come out, that are finally coming out in the open. We're going to have new guests, new people who are going to be explaining their stories, and hopefully
Yeah.
we can spread the word, pass legislation, call your lawmakers, call your senators, call everyone you know, get people on the phone, like, share, subscribe this video, and we hope to see you in the next video. All right, take it
All
easy.
right.
God
Yeah.
bless.
Take it easy. God bless.
peace out.
Okay.
And then he had me come over to him and his desk and do the same thing.
What do you mean do the same thing?
Masturbate him and suck on his dick.
Okay, and then what? Or was that it?
I kept doing that for a while, and then once the kids came in, just about before the kids came in, he had me go back to my desk.
Was that all that took place? Just this one event in the room